Alright, so I wanted to finally maybe show off the Winter Warden stuff. It's been a little bit of a controversy up to this point, so I've been kind of waiting. They released a lot of the aspects of some of the stuff, um, kind of overpowered. I think they kind of goofed on the calculations. Um, they're calling a lot of it bug fixes. I think one aspect of it for sure was, but um, so it's a lot weaker than it was whenever they released it. But I will go into um, what I think is the best way to use the armor, um, and it's utilizing the shield with Power Gauntlet. However, there is some talk that maybe the shield may get nerfed too. I think the shield is the best item in the set. It can be used with multiple other things to really enhance the gameplay of the other things. I've got probably at least four other sort of um, ideas that you can use with it that I'll eventually show. Hopefully, they won't touch it. Um, if they do, that'll probably kind of put the cherry on top of the clusterfuck that is the beginning of the 2024 year for Adventure Quest. The Trickster armor's bugs are still not fixed, so I don't know what the fuck's going on with that. But let's get into it a little bit. First and foremost, it's ugly. I guess it's a little bit of a, Adventure Quest is kind of known for its quote unquote humor. I guess that's maybe a little bit what's going on here, but I think most people just don't care for it. Now, I'm not going to show off the misc and the pet. The misc is basically omnipotence of 10, and then it gives a full set bonus of 15. As a Beastmaster, I'm just going to use Optico. Um, the pet is pretty bland. It's a toggle between Ice Burn and Choke. Uh, really could care less about that. So I'm just going to focus really on the weapon, the armor, the shield, and the spell. And so let's begin by examining the spell. So what I'm going to do is see if I can Prime Chaos Orb Ice to a little bit better number here. Okay, so this next turn, we'll see what happens here. So the armor actually will backlash, choke, and ice burn when it gets hit, and then also, so it's with these toggles here. This one's, I guess, the choke one, and then this one actually toggles between ice burn and fire burn, and so um, it's kind of a different idea. It's pretty cool, to be honest with you. The first skill is an Elevol, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But um, basically, what I want to do is show off the spell first, like I said. So basically, it's going to show off a couple of token 0 damage hits here. But basically, you have a choke that scales versus um, ice, as well as you have your burn there. So uh, if you're able to heal back your MP, you can just kind of stack this and just go from there, right? So I have, let's see, 16% to earth. It's a full defensive armor. And what they're basically doing, I think they haven't really announced it, but I think they haven't really said they won't go this route. But this is a play to really push for a warrior full defensive playstyle where when you're using a melee weapon, the damage will come up to 1 times damage, so that it can compete with mage and ranger in a full defensive armor. Uh, that playstyle is needed, but I think there's going to be some when they implement this with the stat revamp. There's going to be a little bit of a luster there that it'll last a few weeks, but then I think most players will just go back to their full offensive armors, and I just hope that it's not the actual style bonus. I think they just needed to add it for equal gameplay reasons. But as you can see here, the burn's up to 7.08. choke is down to 146. So it's basically very similar to Ancestral Forbidden spell. Basically does no damage. They did do these token 0 damage hits because of how the weapon works. So the magic weapon will inflict burn and choke on ice spells, but it has to land for it to happen. So as you can see, we have 6 rounds of choke is 0.021. So it's a very, very powerful spell. So like this monster won't uh, essentially be able to do a whole hell of a lot to me the rest of this fight, especially as it's going to continue to inflict burn and choke as it hits me. So let's go ahead and get out of this. And let's go ahead and focus on the actual weapon. So we have and I'm just going to show the magic weapon. So the magic weapon, you have to toggle to turn it on. So ice spells, uh, again, does the same effect as the spell, but the token hit will allow that to work with that. So you'll have choke will stack a little faster, and the burn will stack a little faster. So this is just with 85% ice. So you can use other ice spells. There's not a whole lot of options out there to partner this with except for the set spell itself. But as you can see, spamming this with the weapon will bring down some choke um, way down, as you can see. The burn's up to 10 power for 6 turns. So they did 344 versus ice there. And so then I mentioned to you that the skill. So this is actually, so you don't see this much, and I've actually made this argument many times and was told I was full of shit, but um, this is actually a weapon-based skill on a full defensive armor. So you will get effects from your weapons. So now the magic weapon on the Winter Warden's flail only works with spells. So just to kind of showcase that you do get weapon-based effects. So this is going to leave an ice and fire dual Elevon. And dual Elevons are nice, particularly because if you, like for example, in this case, if you have an ice and fire Elevon, I can also, if I have something that would inflict just an ice Elevon or just a fire Elevon, it will be a pure stack and won't absorb inside of it. So I just got my weapon special here, as you can see. Uh, it will take effects from your weapon, so it actually didn't do the skill. However, it did do the choke and the burn. So as you can see, it's a super defensive setup. So you have your weapon-based skill. So you have 4 rounds of 142. As you can see, the choke is up to 0.003. So it's an extremely strong armor. So it did 732 ice burn damage there. So you're building your burn. So before you were doing like a couple thousand ice burn damage before they fixed the bugs. The burn damage was twice as powerful. The choke damage was twice as powerful. Stuff like that. It was pretty crazy. All right, so let's just go ahead and see if we can stack this guy here and see what we get. So my light and darkness are both 75%, and I'm using an earth shield and an ice armor. And so the amount of damage already that this thing is doing, I already have choke down to 60. A lot of people like choke over panic because of the known duration, and they're not. Uh, I mean, that's a valid argument. Um, I think panic stacking is more powerful, personally, but basically, you're going to want to inflict ice and fire burns. Uh, and then inflict the Elevon to enhance it for your damage. Now, um, a lot of people may not view it this way, but I do. I view this armor as a Beastmaster armor only because of the Elevons. So I can use, if I wanted to, ice and fire pets to increase my damage. Um, so like I could, if I wanted to, I could bring on the Pride Lord. Let's see, and then maybe do this guy so I can spam this. We'll see what happens. So I've got up to 163 here. Let's see if the Pride Lord does anything good. So it's kind of a slow and steady playstyle, but you're going to be choking the monster down little by little, constantly. So as you can see, the Void Skull is starting to do some uh, enough damage to make the Elevon spamming. So I'm already up to 208 there to make that better. So as you can see, very suboptimal conditions. At an Earth Shield, this monster's doing doing light and darkness damage, but my element's there 75%. And only lost this much. Full defensive armor with the choke on top, relying mostly on its skill and its burns for damage. So I can actually toggle this over to fire. So maybe in this case, I'll just use some additional Elevons, and we'll see what kind of results we get here. Hopefully, the Void Skull will be able to get me some SP pretty quickly. So now it looks like, let's see, we've got some fire burns going on. So the choke is probably going to be growing a little bit slower in this case. I think it's scales versus ice. We've got some more Elevon. Oh, missed both of those. But I've already Blade went, so as you can see, uh, very defensive armor. A lot of people may not like to play defensively. I don't mind it. To me, you're playing the game more instead of just dropping nukes at the drop of a hat. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the shield, which is the actual star of the show. But before I uh, do a full showcase on that, um, I'm going to talk about one of the bug fixes that made this a major nerf. So this skill, when it first inflicted, as I'll show you, it says Elevon of fire than ice. Well, the shield actually backlashes the same Elevon, but they had it listed backwards. They listed it ice and fire instead of fire and ice, or vice versa. They had them backwards. And what that was doing is the skill was listing separately from the shield, and then what you could do is use Power Gauntlet, and it would alter the shield. So you would have a crazy Elevon stack going on, but now they fixed it, so the shield will actually backlash into the existing Elevon, and so the stack grows much more slowly. Well, what I have learned is actually, if you, I think the best way to go is to not use the frost bark um, thing, and I'll show you why here in a second. Alright, before I show the shield, what I'm going to do is put on a different shield here. And then I'm going to use Wishweaver Pet, and just to show a reminder of what Power Gauntlet is able to do with 1-turn Elevons. They may change it to a 0-turn, which would actually ruin the whole thing, but we'll see. So we have the Omni Elevon, 1 round of 113%. Hopefully this will work. So then you use the Power Gauntlet. It inflicts, which is supposed to be 4 turns of 125%, but instead of inflicting its own line, it added 100%. And this works for all Elevons. It could be light, darkness, ice, fire, it doesn't really matter. And so what you end up with is that 100% Elevon. So you have 4 turns at 125%. So it rolled all into the same turn. So in turn, it essentially um, creates a situation where your damage is basically like, so all damage is increased by 213% in this case. And then you use this other Elevon here, so now we have 142, which is enhanced by the 213. So you end up with some crazy damage. So what I'm going to show you here, so instead of using the skill, so now you toggle this on, so it's going to cost SP. So let's see what it is. I think it said 88, 98. So it backlashes 121% fire and ice. Elevon, it will actually do this up to 4 times. So if a monster hits you 4 times, it'll become 142, then 163, then 184. But I showed you a second ago that Power Gauntlet, hopefully this will work here, will actually change that to 221. Well, this is actually going to be 2 rounds. So what I would do with this armor, instead of using this, which is actually going to dilute that 1 round at 221, it'll bring it down. So I'm going to showcase that. So this is what I would not do. I would not come back on top and just, well, the special one off. So much for that. Well, what ended up happening is it changes it to something around, I think it's like 161 or something, for 4 turns. So I would rather have 2 turns at 221 than 4 or 5 at 160 something. Um, so, in my opinion, the best way to go um, is, let's see, make sure this is doing ice burn. So what I would honestly do is just try and stack other means of damage, like maybe ice burns, fire burns. You could use 74th Law, or maybe you're just casting spells as a beast mage here. So like in this example here, I'm getting my panic from creature 72 and then healing back my resources. There's no reason it should have missed me. So we've got choke already down to 289 because I'm willing the weapon. Burns up to 6. Okay, so here we go. And then you would use Power Gauntlet, get it to inflict. So now you're at 221, and then come back to this. This is especially nice because this BTH loss from this misc won't be there because this spell doesn't hit. Choke is down to under 1%. And then just after that first one, so we had 855 burn damage, as you can see right here. It just missed me again. But you could actually do this. You could just come back with the Omni, right? Because there's not a one turn Elevon there. And just spam this thing. You're just trying to stack your ice burn here. It hits you, and you hit it. It's ice burn. So again, here we go. Let's see what we did that time. That time was 771. This actually should really take off this time. Just keep spamming it because I've got this resource heal combo coming up. So choke just keeps growing, burn keeps growing. Let's see what kind of burn damage we get this time. It should be pretty good. Basically 1177 damage that time. It's only going to show what the monster had left there, but you saw the 1177. So to me, that's the best route to go. Is don't even use the Elevon skill from uh, the armor itself. Just stack burns and whatnot with the actual spell. And the spell actually having burn and choke makes it super defensive, and therefore you really don't have to be in the actual proper defenses, if in my opinion. Just gonna spam this guy. Just did celerity, just to kind of show off what celerity will do with the weapon, the magic weapon. So already down to 19%, and then obviously we have the panic there. So we have 19% choke plus a 61% panic here. 9 damage. I have 75% light, 9 damage. Of course, this is only a level 100 monster, but you get the point. Power Gauntlet that. I'm going to do celerity once again. What's nice about the spell again is the 8.5 BTH loss from the misc doesn't apply to the spell, so you just spam it. So now we're at choke at 0.09 here. Panic is going to be inflicted, lowering it. Let's see what we did there. 1,899 ice burn damage. So that's where you're going to be getting your burn damage from. And it hit me, so now this round is where it's going to get crazy. If this inflicts. Alright. So now we have 2 lines of 221. So now I'm going to actually do this again. I actually don't have enough MP to cast this twice. But my burn is up to 16 power. Choke is at 0.03. Also, the choke and the burn, I think, have a negative 20 save. So it's basically going to inflict. Alright, so this is going to be a pretty crazy burn. I think 1692. You actually saw the bug to Lucky Strike there. Hit me again, which is cool because I just want to continue doing this setup here. Basically not losing any damage versus a light monster. Let's see how much of this envelope I can push here. Creature 72 is not going to be able to go after this. But now we're at 15 rounds to choke, so I mean this monster's not getting out of this. The burn power is up to 21.42. Keep in mind, this is only against 100% ice, so this should be pretty crazy. Over 2,000 burn. So as you can see, it is much, much better to not use the Elevon skill from the armor. Just use Power Gauntlet for those that have it with the shield. Now keep in mind, I will be following up using the shield with other ideas using ice and fire related strategies. But all in all, this is the Winter Warden armor, shield, weapon, and spell. It is very, very good, despite all of the chaos and bickering and bitching about all of the um, things, about the bug fixes and nerfs and stuff. Now, like I said, uh, if they change the shield, this is going to be greatly nerfed. And if one day they change how Power Gauntlet interacts with one turn Elevons, it will also greatly nerf it. But that's how I would use it going forward. You could probably beat almost any monster using this set. Just Prime Chaos Orb to better ice and just abuse uh, the Power Gauntlet and Shield interaction, and you should be able to mop the floor with pretty much any monster.